Hello everyone and welcome to my spring 2022 forecast. I thought we'd do this again because my winter one went very well. It didn't, it went terribly wrong. But yes, so we'll talk you through my spring 2022 forecast in a minute. It is a little bit late, it's 10 days late into spring, but there's arguments about that being on the 21st it starts. Let's just say it starts on the 21st, and I'm kind of actually not really causing arguments because I'm doing it on the 10th, which is in between the 1st and the 21st. So it's in between meteorological and astronomical, which is great. So we're not actually really causing any arguments at this point. Yay! So that's good. But yeah, that was not intentional. The intention was to release this on 28th of February, but I did get caught up with a few things, so it's been a little bit delayed. But yes, so we'll go through the winter forecast in a second. Not that I want to, but we will go through that in a second, and we'll talk about where things went wrong. Not great. So basically, December, I went for a colder than average month. That didn't go very well because around Christmas time, when it looked like we were going to build a Scandinavian high, that didn't happen. And I think that at that point, the low pressure around Christmas was that one moment. I think that was where it kind of just fell apart. You know, like it kind of just diminished, and I think we knew that at the point. It kind of just diminished. We kept hope that we would get like an SSW, sudden stratospheric warmer, later in the winter, but it didn't happen. January, I went for a very cold month. Very, very, very optimistic with this, but it didn't happen. And February, I actually went for a very mild month. I went for a complete flip, and I went for quite a stormy month, which it was. It was until like the last week where it flipped to like a milder, drier solution. But I think February was good. We got February right with the stormy pattern, but I did think we would set up more of a obviously, like when you get into a pattern, it's difficult to get out. So when we kind of failed at Christmas, that's where the pattern kind of failed completely, and it just went down that road of, you know, downhill the whole way. And the PV powered up in early February, or late January to early February, and then that continued to the end. It's still going, kind of. It's slowing down at the minute, but we will talk through what's going to happen in March, hopefully. This one, I feel, is not that, you know, dreamy. I feel like it's more realistic. I don't know what I did. I just did this for fun back in winter and early December, because all the signs were pointing to Easter QBO, the point we are in the solar cycle, the La Nina, and yeah. I think the thing that may have offset it is maybe the Atlantic hurricanes days, maybe the PV just powered up too much, and these days the PV is powering up way more than it has, say, 10 years ago. But yeah, that's what I think may have happened, but who knows? People have got different theories about it. It could be the solar, it could be solar as well, but I don't know. Like, I don't think it was like one thing that caused it. I think it was maybe several things that caused it. But well, I guess we'll never know. Maybe we will. I doubt it. To be honest, we'll never get like a complete circumstantial answer. Is that even a thing? Probably not. But yes. We're going to go through the spring forecast today. There's some excitement, very, very mixed coming up, I think. So, yeah, we're just going to go through it. I think I've done quite well for the first 10 days. But, well, yeah, let's go for it. This was written back in late February, by the way. So, whatever was written on the, I think it was 27th I wrote it. So, the day before I was going to do the video. But then I obviously got delayed with it. So what you're seeing here, there's no changes done since then, so I've not changed it at all. So it is kind of the same forecast, but it's just been put out later in the video. So yeah, let's start off with, Alright, we're going to start off with my March 2022 thoughts. So what do I think that may happen in March? So I think at some point we're going to get blocking. I think at some point this month we're going to get some sort of blocking. I think it's definitely going to be more Scandinavian based, especially now we're into the 10th day, the 9th, 10th day of March, and I think it's looking like if we're going to get any sort of blocking, it's probably going to be Scandinavian, because I think we're going to see a lot of shots going up to Scandinavia until like the last week, but until then I think it's going to be failed Scandinavian highs. Cold weather will likely arrive later in the month as a result of warming in the stratosphere and the Scandinavian high. I think it's more likely in the last week of the month than it is now, obviously, because we've still got quite a bit of low pressure in the Atlantic, which will wind down as a result of, not SSW yet, but as a result of like warmings. So March overall, till around the last week, I think it will have mixed weather, alternating between dry and wet. I think maybe Obviously, if we go based on what's already happened, the first week was quite dry. The second week's going to be quite mixed, bit wetter later in the week, and then the next week's probably going to be quite wet and maybe turning drier again as we start to get some higher pressure ridging up to UK to Scandinavia, and hopefully setting up a Scandinavian high if this forecast is right. And then failed attempts, this is what we mentioned earlier, failed attempts to build up proper Scandinavian high, but I think we do have teasers for later in the month, and I think these failed attempts are hints that it could happen. But I think the last week, around the 20th to the 25th, that sort of period, we'll start to see a change. And I definitely think a flip around third to last week is likely though. Alright, so this is the March 2022 forecast then. Are you ready? This is what is going... I think it will happen in March. We've already done the first third, but still. I'm predicting an average temperature month, so around average, you know. I think so far we've got around average temperature month so far. We're not far at all from the average, so I think we're doing quite well with that so far. With mild and cold points in March alternating and offsetting each other. Precipitation is slightly above average. March overall though is usually a dry month, so I don't think it'll be that noticeable. I think around the middle of the month is the more likely point that we're going to weather that's quite wet. The second week, I didn't write this right now by the way, I wrote this about 2 weeks ago, so I'm doing quite well with that so far. Better than the December forecast already. I flipped to much colder weather with Scandinavian high around the last week of the month. That's the point where I'm going to be keeping my fingers crossed that does happen though. And warm weather is still on the table though. This is not what we're doing. We're not doing the sort of like we are going to get cold weather as the forecast. We're going to be doing like a chance sort of based. But warm weather is still on the table for later in the month, around 30 to 40% chance in my opinion. If that PV continues to power up and bring low pressure in, I think it will still stay warm as the ridge starts to build. But it's not strong enough, the PV, to roll them straight through the UK. So I think that the ridge will try and build up, but the low pressure will still be too strong to build a Scandinavian high, if that makes sense. Alright, April 2022, this is probably the most interesting month. It always is the most interesting month of the spring, I think. So yeah, we're seeing here March was is going to be mixed until around third to last week, probably more likely last week now, but still, around third to last week, and it will probably, hopefully, set up a Scandinavian high and we'll get some easterly winds going. April is always an interesting month as it contains any weather. So last year was actually the cold, having snow, but overall was the coldest April since 1986. It didn't have a lot of snow because it was quite a dry month, and you know it was Scandinavian high, but the Scandinavian high didn't bring in properly cold easterly winds, you know. On the flip side though, the lockdown April 2020, I'm sure we all remember this, was a very dry, warm, sunny month, and yeah, I'm sure we all remember that, being in lockdown for about 3 months and didn't rain that much. how unfortunate. I think this month is probably one of the hardest to predict because it can be very different every year. And spring weather is more likely some point in the second month, particularly in the second half. Some point in this month in the second half, and the first half will start off probably quite cold actually. And a 3-week cold spell from around 20th to 23rd of March to mid-April is what I'm possibly thinking will happen as the stratosphere weakens this week, winter's PV, and it will hopefully start bringing some colder weather towards us. I think snowfall will be above average, considering spring seems to be more wintry these days. It does. We're going to get snow in the summer at some point, I think. Alright, April 2022 forecast. Are you ready for this? I'm expecting a slightly below average month. I'm not taking any chances after this this winter forecast, and I think it will be a chilly month. We'll feel it. But in the sunshine, it will obviously be quite warm as well. The cold temperatures from late March will continue around mid-month, and I think Scandinavian blocking is the more possible one. And yeah, I think there is a chance of northing, but it's really low, like 5 to 10%. So yeah, but I think Scandinavian blocking is the more likely scenario, and that's probably at 60 to 70%, and then warm weather is about 30%. And warm and spring-like weather takes over from mid-month and produces a very warm second half to April, and it is possible. As I said, that the warm second half last week of March and into April is possible. I think it is possible that we could have quite a warm spring if that scenario goes on. Goes ahead. Rainfall will be significantly below average, though. I think high pressure will be the most dominant one. The Azores High will return, and it will. This will be like the last full month the Azores High will be here, though, as we'll speak in a minute. And hail, snow, rain, and thunder showers will be possible early on as well as the cold weather is there, and the air becomes unstable, or the atmosphere becomes unstable, or is unstable. Alright, so May for the last... So this is May. Now, May is an interesting one as well, because for the last few years, except last year, it's been a very warm and summer-like month. 2017, yep. 2018, sort of. 2019, yep. 2020, yes, definitely 2020. Particularly 2020, actually. That was, like, a very warm month during lockdown. And last year was actually quite wet, and it was the coolest May since 1995 or something, I think. I can't remember exactly. And I think this May is likely to have a mix of weather, some warm and sunny and some wet and cool periods. I think every month has got very mixed, but apart from April, it's just high pressure, so that's dry mostly, or like pretty much all month. And it is possible that the first half continues what happened in late April, warm and sunny, and the second half sees a deterioration, and it's a big deterioration. It's probably a pattern flip, complete pattern flip to more wet weather. And could the Azores High finally go? That would see a big change to the pattern for the summer. And yes, the wettest months are ringing. To me, alarm bells are ringing. 2007 and 2012 especially as well. 2007 was notably a dull summer, and 2012 was just a wet summer. But both were like way above average rainfall as well, flooding everywhere. You wouldn't think that much in the summer, I suppose, with like flash flooding, but you would think that from thunderstorms, not from like actual like low pressure. So May 2022, I'm predicting an above average temperature month. So this will be above average with a tale of two halves. The first half will have plenty of dry and sunny weather, so it continues from April, and as the spring-like weather from April continues to May. But the second half, again, it's always the second half of the month or towards like the end of the month that change always happens. And I think that will see the Azores High finally shift. That's been here since August, by the way. And we'll see a deterioration just before summer. Rainfall will be slightly above average as it turns wetter mid-month. But it won't be as wet as last year, nowhere near. Last year was one of the wettest Mays on record, actually. Funny enough. Alright, here's your overall summary for spring 2022. Very, very simply broken down. And we'll show you the actual spring overall as well. So March. Average temperatures, so overall average temperatures, slightly wetter than average, and a flip from mixed weather to colder weather last week of the month. And April, a very dry month, very, very dry month, probably significantly drier. Cold first half, warm spring-like second half, snow and hail possible first half as well. And May, we'll see a very mixed month actually, and temperatures above average. First half will be warm and dry, and the second half wet and cool, but I think warm will win out just. And spring, finally, is overall, this is overall spring, by the way. I think it will be precipitation around average, but I don't think there's going to be anything really to add to the record books, really. Maybe the dry April, like very dry April, one of the driest Aprils on record, but I don't think there's going to be much to really, put in the record books, really. So I think it's going to be like quite I think overall it's a very mixed April. You've got cold parts, you've got warm and dry parts. Yeah, I think it's going to be like quite a mixed spring. I don't think we'll go past like 3 weeks where the pattern stays the same, 2 or 3 weeks where the pattern stays the same. I think it'll change quite a lot, and yeah. So for the summer though, you can pretty much see from this forecast how the summer is going to go, but we'll see how this goes before we do the summer forecast, probably on the last day of May. That'll happen, unless it's delayed like this one, but yeah. Anyway, that's going to do it. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button. Thank you for watching this spring 2022 forecast. And if you want to see more, please subscribe, because we will have a summer one coming up soon as well. So yeah, see you later.